Welcome, friends, to another episode of the Business of Inner Peace. I'm super excited. We have a wonderful guest on today. Her name is Morgan Hamer, and she's the manifesting mentor, and she's the founder of Morgan Manifests. She helps ambitious women ditch burnout and build soul-aligned businesses that actually make money. After leaving a high pressure career, she manifested $1 million real estate portfolio and multiple income streams by aligning with her intuition and purpose. Her work blends mindset, energetics, and spiritual strategy to help women create lasting success, inner peace, which is what we're all about, and real financial freedom. And she loves God, which is really cool. So we're going to have an amazing conversation today. Grab your favorite beverage and tune in. Welcome to the Business of Inner Peace. I'm your host, Erin Jean, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's pretend we're sitting in my living room enjoying a cup of coffee or tea and getting to know each other just a little better. That's what I love. I love getting to hear your story. I love feeling connected by the spirit of understanding that our stories bring. Today, I'm sharing some of my story, but I hope someday soon you'll be telling me yours. Listen, I know that you're feeling overwhelmed with life, and nothing is exactly how you'd like it to be. Your marriage is not what you hoped for. Motherhood is harder than you imagined. And you've lost yourself somewhere in the mix of responsibilities. Well, if you're ready to bring some more peace and joy into your life, reconnect with God who made you, and start living a life you love, then grab your cup of coffee or tea and let's dive into today's show. Hi, Morgan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Erin. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. Well, we're going to talk about some stuff that I have a feeling is going to probably put some people outside of their comfort zones. It might push a little buttons, but that's okay because I think, whatever triggers you is worthy of paying attention to and investigating and asking questions like, why does this bother me so much? And I bring that up because I've noticed in the world of Christianity, we'll call it the American Christian church, the word manifest really tends to bother some people. And so we're going to have a great conversation about that today, which I'm excited. But before we do, I love knowing everyone's backstory and what got you to the space that you're in right now. And so I'd love if you just share with us how you got here.
Sure, I'm going to loop in my experience becoming a Christian as well because I think it's definitely a part of this story and might also help listeners kind of open up and see that it is really aligned with Christianity when you look at it from curiosity instead of closed-mindedness. So when I was a kid, I grew up in a very chaotic home, and I wasn't raised in the church. I mean, I went to church here and there, but it wasn't because I was told to go there. But because I had young parents and I was raised equally by my parents and two sets of grandparents, I was like passed around a lot. There was no consistency in my life. And they were all pretty crazy and did not give me good coping mechanisms or a sense of self-worth or anything really to equip me for what life had in store. So I got in a lot of trouble when I was young. I was always the black sheep. I felt like so lost and unaccepted as a person, as a little person. And I always found like a family to go to church with. Like since first grade is the first time I can remember, but I moved around a lot, but despite everything, I always had a family that would bring me to church regularly. And thank God for that because having that one stable environment, that one consistent thing in this chaotic world that I was raised in was why I'm still here today. And I really hit a rock bottom. My first rock bottom when I was 15 and I moved to a new high school and it was not what I expected. I thought I was going to be like Lindsay Lohan and Mean Girls and be the new cool girl in town, and such was not the case. I was bullied. I had to eat my lunch in the bathroom. Like it was, and then I was also on lockdown with my parents, and so I could only go to school and church. And because of that, even though in hindsight it was a pretty cruel lifestyle, get bullied at school and then have no phone, no internet, no connection to the outside world except for church on Wednesday, youth group on Wednesdays and church on Sundays. It ended up being a blessing because I did not have any distractions. I had nothing but my own thoughts really, and then the Bible, which was really introduced to me. I was open to receiving it for the first time in that era because I had nothing else, and I was just flooded with self-hate and doubt and just so lonely and so lost. And I read the Gospels, and it just changed my life. And I up until recently, like I'm now fully receiving this experience, but I genuinely felt like I walked with Christ for that year, my sophomore year of high school. I didn't have anyone else but him to turn to. And I didn't feel lonely. I didn't feel lost anymore. And it was interesting. Like I couldn't even think bad thoughts about people. I could only look at people through the lens of love. And what a magical experience that I had. But with time, I got sucked back into life, and I lost that sense of connection. But I always held it with me. And for many years following that time, I wanted to get back to that feeling of being divinely held and connected. And after years of like trying to figure out how to cultivate this again, I just kind of lost sight of it and gave up. But I've always been a Christian. I've always prayed and believed in God, but I just could never get to that feeling again. And so fast forward to adulthood, and I went and got a master's degree in something that I thought would be a career path that would make my mama proud and make me lots of money, even though it was 100% not aligned with who I truly am. And I thought I'm going to go into commercial real estate, and I really don't fit the mold for that. But I started to read I started to read books about personal development and spirituality and the law of attraction and all of this, and I manifested my first big dream job, what I thought was my dream job. And it ended up not being great, but I took those same tools and I applied it again and I got an even better job. And then I started to level up in my career. But meantime, I am like overworked, underpaid. Like I don't feel worthy of making money and success deep down because I still had those wounds from my childhood. So I'm working 60, 80 hours a week because I don't feel like I deserve anything and I need to prove my worth. And eventually I burned out. I hit a rock bottom again. And my body, I got all kinds of illnesses. I had a miscarriage. I mean, it was like a really rough time in my life. And I had all of this career success, but inside I was broken. But during this time, I was still learning everything I could about personal development and manifesting and spirituality, and I was testing it out in real life. I would read a book or hear a new concept on a podcast, and I would make note of it and I would test it out. And so from 2018 until now, I've been doing that and documenting it and using it to share with other people to empower them. But, you know, the lessons got bigger and the leaps of faith got scarier. And I eventually realized like this business I'm working for is so not aligned. It's like literally killing me. My boss is not the same person he was when I signed up to help him grow his business. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go and be a freelance real estate agent on my own. And this was in the end of 2021. And something happened. I really a lot. a lot of my success is because I am all about surrendering to God and asking for divine guidance and then following that that next divine download, that next calling that I receive that I know is divinely planted. It's I just know when it is. It's like this deep knowing, this clear voice. There's no fear-based messaging. It's all about like love and clarity. So I had this divine download right before, like a month before I was planning on going out on my own to reach out to one of my magnetic mirrors who was a retired attorney that has like an estate in France and an art studio at his house. And he started a business brokerage career in his retirement because he was bored. And I'm like, I want to be like you when I grow up. So I had this divine download to reach out to Steve and say, hey, like, I am about to go and walk into this very scary, self-employed next chapter. I just want to pick your brain because I admire you. And he turns around and says, "Why don't we open a real estate firm together?" So, this divine download that I followed and also, practice what I preach in my manifesting programs about the power of magnetic mirrors, connecting with people that will help demonstrate to your subconscious mind that it's possible for you. I got an opportunity that I would have never dreamed of, like collaborating with awesome people to start my own business. And so I hit the ground running. I left my soul-sucking job within 3 months. I had made enough money to cover at least a year worth of expenses. And I grew a team of like nine, seven or nine within a couple months. I mean, it was crazy how quickly God rewarded me for trusting and following my intuition and prioritizing myself for the first time. So I'm flying high, everything's great. And then I start getting hit with like unexpected expense after unexpected expense. And it was so stressful in my first year of unemployment. I think I had like $50,000 in unexpected expenses. And that was a really challenging time spiritually because I was getting broken down and just forced to surrender and trust over and over and over again. And every time I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm improving and my like relationship with trust and God is getting better. And then the next phase of this crazy chapter, people in my loved ones, my family members, they just started passing away. Like I ended up losing, I think, maybe 22 people in the first 2.5 years of self-employment. So not only was I getting hit with these big financial challenges, but I'm also having to decide and trust my gut and turn it over to God. Like, do I need to drop my business to go commute 3 hours away to go be with my best friend and her mom in her final hours of her life? Or do I need to go drop everything and move up to West Virginia 3.5 hours away to go be with my dying loved ones, you know? And I just kept trusting God over and over again. And every time that like some big scary thing, some big scary situation, horrifying, sad, grueling loss would come up, I would meet a new version of myself that I never even knew was possible. Like just being there for my people, knowing the next right thing to say. I spoke in my grandfather, my favorite person in the world's funeral. Like these little miracles kept happening despite all the pain. And from that experience, I have been able to cultivate a relationship with God and a trust in being divinely held that I don't think will ever go away. Like I experienced in high school, I finally found it again, but it's on a new level that has helped lead me to discovering like unconditional peace is really the byproduct of this time, this experience. I was just broken down into surrender and trust and love and faith. And I had to do it over and over again in such a short amount of time. And from that experience, I realized like anything is possible. If I can make it through that, like anything is possible. And God is always going to have my back no matter what. And the final thing I wanted to add to this story is through all of that, I was still manifesting. I was still having these big wins. And oh, another thing that like happened is I started to really open up a spiritual gift, which was I started having these prophetic dreams. And I really do believe that it's the byproduct of part like the manifesting work and the subconscious reprogramming that I've done that's helped prevent me from connecting to God. It's the work I've done that's kept me in my head and my ego and my pain body running the show to being able to let go and surrender and receive not only God's guidance through like intuitive messages, but also now through dreams. So that's been interesting as well. But anyway, Erin, I'm sure you have a lot of questions. Thanks for giving me that time to share.
Yeah, you have a really powerful story, and I'm so thankful and that God has been the center of it, and that He really led you to this place where it's consistent, that connection that you feel. Um, where do we go next? I I would love for you to speak into kind of the hesitation that would say most Christians have around the word manifesting or the belief that we can actually create, what it is we're wanting to see in life. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that you use the word create because that reminded me like God is creation and God is love, like all caps, unconditional love. And when we align with that energy, that creation energy, that love, that truth, that trust, all the high vibe energies or emotions that we want to feel, like that is manifesting. And I don't know how that could possibly conflict with Christian beliefs. Manifesting is about co-creating with God. It's about learning how to trust God, receive God's instructions, and also peel back the layers, the beliefs, the stories that keep us in being governed by our past experiences, our limiting beliefs, the things in our brain that function to keep us safe and small. And by being closed-minded to manifesting, you're like totally blocking your blessings, but it's understandable because our brains are structured to keep us safe. And if we don't understand something, like the default is to be like, okay, no, this isn't safe. I don't need to expose myself to this. But the same can go for anything in your life, whether it's an opportunity to level up in your business. If you don't understand it, you're like, oh no, when really that's the next right thing that you should be doing to level up. So manifesting is about peeling back those layers, those fears, those beliefs that keep you limited. And by doing that, you also begin to make space for receiving God's voice, God's messages, God's guidance. And so if you want to call it something else, if you want to call it surrendering to God and aligning with your purpose instead of manifesting, go for it. But it's the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think it doesn't really matter what you call it, um, because it's the truth that we were made in God's image, right? And therefore, we are creators. And I always just say, look at nature, because nature to me is the biggest example of God's handiwork. And He's created so many beautiful plants and animals and all of that. But the unique thing between them and us is this ability to create, right? We are the only part of His creation that was said in the Bible were made in God's image, right? It doesn't say that about plants. It doesn't say that about animals. It only says it about us. And what's the unique thing about God is that He is the creator. And so we've been given this ability to create. And, some people try to argue with me on this. They're like, well, beavers can build a dam and birds can build a nest, right? It's like, yes, 100% they can create out of survival, instincts and necessity, but they don't create for just the sake of creation, for just pure joy and sharing love and sharing creativity. Only humans do that. And I just think when we're in that space, like God said, I came to give you life and life more abundantly. Like life is supposed to be fun, life is supposed to be joyful. And what you are saying about like when we get afraid, right, of something we don't understand, it's like we shut down. And really, I personally believe that is the enemy's goal. That is actually what the enemy of our soul loves nothing more than, because it keeps us stuck in a place of pain and limited
Fear.
ability and fear, 100%,
Fear
right?
and love
That's the
can't
thing.
coexist. You know what I mean? Like you can break it down and simplify it to that. It's like that God is love, the enemy is fear.
Hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
No, you're 100% right, though. And I think that's a good starting point, because if anything, like I said at the beginning of this episode, if something triggers you, it's actually an invitation to explore, right? That's the first place we can start asking great questions. Like, why does this bother me so much? And I think if you really start digging down, oftentimes the answer is fear. There's this low level of fear around not understanding something, right? I think for most Christians, I'm going to guess the fear is coming from a place of, I don't want to do anything or partake in anything that's not aligned with God, right? And if they don't understand it, they kind of default to, this must not be aligned with God,
Hmm.
right? But there's a lot of things we don't understand that we don't think that way on. I love the example of like electricity, right? Like, how many people actually understand how electricity is working? How it happens that when you flip that switch in your room, the light comes on. Like, you don't really have understanding about it. But if you go back and look at the history of electricity, like the people in the very beginning said this is from the devil. Like people didn't want a house for real. People did not want their house wired with electricity. They said it was evil, right? And oftentimes, if you look at the history of many things, many inventions that have come along, that same sentence was said, like the Wright brothers with flying. So many people told them that that was, Satan's work. That if we were meant to fly, God would have given us wings, right? So it's like I want to invite our listeners to ask really good questions about why does something bother you? Because I do think that there's probably always fear at the base. And what you said is perfect, right? Fear and love can't go together.
Yes, and you have I have a few things about what you just said that I'd love to elaborate on.
Sure.
Firstly, um, mentioning the triggers. When you're in a triggered state, when something is like ick to you and you're like actually set off by it a little bit, like you have some kind of physical reaction, your brain is cut off from that like higher level thinking and that like access to the part of your brain that connects you to divine guidance in the first place and creative thinking and whatnot. So your triggers are absolutely an invitation for healing because they're literally preventing you from connecting to God, if you look at it like that. And if you're a Christian, I know that is probably your priority. So when you start to explore what is at the root of your triggers, and I'm sure that everyone has a different reason why they're triggered by manifesting, but I'm sure most of it is that like just not understanding. And maybe manifesting isn't the trigger that's gonna like make you be willing to explore and start to work through your triggers. Maybe it's something like your husband not doing the dishes and laundry like you ask or something like that. It can be whatever, but at the root of that trigger is often a deeper seated belief or story or narrative that is programmed inside of you that is blocking your blessings in more than one area of your life. So I think it's really important to be curious at the very least. You don't have to be curious about manifesting, but especially about learning the reprogramming techniques so that you can be freed from the things that trigger you in the first place.
1,000%. I'm like, yes, yes.
Well, and so one of the manifesting techniques that I teach, once again, which is totally aligned with Christianity, is it's like a two-part technique. One is starting to get comfortable walking through the fire of your fears, but simultaneously inviting God in every step of the way. There is a inner transformation that is created when you have something you want and there's some fears in between you and that, and you turn it over and surrender to God and say, ask me what the next right step is. Or if you have a desire, it doesn't necessarily have to be a fear, but if you have a desire, instead of getting in your head and trying to solve the problems on your own, if you can surrender and trust the creator of all things is going to help guide you, that's where the next right thing is going to come from. It's not from you having to figure it all out. And so, this walking through the fire of your fears exercise that I recommend to people who are feeling stuck or held back on aligning with whatever their vision or their goal is, when um you start to kind of investigate, okay, what is the thing that's holding me back? Like, what is the belief, and how can I take a tiny baby step on a daily basis to walk through this fear while also simultaneously inviting God along every step of the way? So that can look like, if you want to be a thought leader and that is your daydream, but you are scared of speaking on stage and you aren't very connected because you're introverted, and whatever things are holding you back from like pursuing that deep soul level calling, instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to start applying to be on podcasts and I'm going to apply for public speaking opportunities. Like, you're not ready for that, more than likely. But you can start to take baby steps where you invite God to collaborate with you on making this dream a reality, and also simultaneously start to ask God, like, what is a small way today that I can start to trust you and trust myself and make this dream a reality? So that might look like posting more on social media, just getting comfortable putting yourself out there. Or it might look like calling all of the friends that you haven't caught up with in your phone, just to start getting over that fear of putting yourself out there and talking to people. It could just be people you know that you're comfortable with as a start. Like, there's a million ways to start to implement this step, but this stuff compounds over time. And once you start to put yourself, like, walk through that fear and see that God has your back, then that expands your capacity to do bigger, scarier things. And then next thing you know, you're on the TED stage giving a TED talk or whatever it is that you hope to achieve as a thought leader. So if that isn't Christian, I don't really know how to break it down any better, Erin?
Yeah, yeah. And that was one of the thoughts that I had is I think the fear for people comes also around material things and financial wealth. Right? There's the teaching around the love of money is the root of all evil. And some people like just maybe have categorized that as if I want anything for myself, right? I'm selfish and it's the root of all evil instead of really applying what it says. Like it's essentially like worshiping money is the root of all evil. And so having a desire for nice things or creating an income to support your family is not necessarily the root of all evil, but I'm thinking that that's where some of the fear comes from. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about what you either in your own life or you've helped people manifest that has nothing to do with money, like with a financial gain.
Um, I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Can you give me like a specific example?
Yeah, like have you manifested something in your life that doesn't have to do with money? Like it doesn't have to do with getting a specific job or making more money, but it's maybe more of it's like a relationship thing that you wanted to create, or it's a status of your mind that you wanted to live in. Like I wanted to be living more peaceful, less stress, like something like that.
Yeah, okay, I got it. So I, the first thing that comes to mind with that question is really manifesting. A lot of people come to learn about manifesting, or they come to work with me specifically because I have the business background plus the manifesting background. And they just want to learn how to get their they want to learn how to make more money in their business. And that's just the entry point. Manifesting, I could teach the same skills to men who want a happy, healthy relationship. It's all the same stuff. And on the outside, people are the pain points that people have that make them willing to do things differently often is rooted in love, money, or health. And so that that is my like the entry point to having people come. They have a pain point, they want it to be solved, and they found that learning the art of manifesting is the next right thing for them to explore. But in all reality, manifesting is about the person that you become in order to have the material things that you want, whether it's a relationship or a dream house or a job or whatever. And you can't lose. That can't be taken away from you. That inner transformation that you create through doing the reprogramming, through learning how to trust God, learning how to let go and let God and stop getting in your head and letting your limited scope of understanding dictate your life, or letting your fears, those subconscious beliefs that keep you stuck, from dictating your life. And when you do that, like you could lose everything in all reality, and you're going to be able to attract it again because you've cultivated that inner transformation required so that you can continue to manifest, because God, you know, God has your back. You know that what you want is as good as yours. You trust that when you lose everything, that it's all for the best because you've seen it happen enough times to know, like, oh, here we go again. Here's a new opportunity to level up and get closer to the divine parts of myself. You know what I mean? So, I don't even remember what your original question is, but
You answered it, just wanting an example of, because I think people's fear of manifesting is that it's rooted only in money,
and material things.
material things. And I think the truth is that if you really break it down, I think that manifesting is just living life, because if you're alive and you were made by God, which if you're listening to this, you checked both of those boxes. Um, you are manifesting. All of us are manifesting every day of our life. It's just because it's a universal law that God wrote into the world, right? But it's the awareness of it, and if you're putting that into practice to your benefit or not. Another way to say it is you're either living by design or you're living by default. Like no matter what, you're living, you're breathing, you're creating something, whether you acknowledge it or not. And you have a choice about what it is. So the truth, I think, is that you don't get to choose whether or not you're manifesting.
Yes, your reality is a direct byproduct of your inner belief, your inner self, the and it's not just beliefs like stored in your mind, but also the energies and the stories that are in your body as well. Like all of this is projecting out your experience of your reality. And so really, once again, it all comes back to peeling back the layers that keep you from seeing the truth, which is we have a divine connection with God. We have that access to that peace, that fulfillment, that joy that we attach to the material things that we want. Like we think we need a new house or a new car or a husband or whatever to be happy. What if we could just peel back that narrative that like I need this thing in order to be happy, and just remember that like we can cultivate this feeling. Like God wants us to thrive and be happy and healthy and well and lit up by our lives, and like really the healing and the reprogramming stuff is just more of a remembering of that truth that we were born with anyway.
I really love that. You're 100% right. It is more of a remembering. And I always love that idea too. If you just look at a little newborn baby, right? Like they're just so pure. It's like God's love. They can't do anything to earn more love or earn less love because they can vomit on you and poop and all the things, right? And cry all night and you still just love them. And I feel like that's like the essence of humanity is that's what we all are, right? We're
Yes.
just come straight from God. We're just love.
Well, that I do want to comment on the money, the resistance to money with specifically with Christians. Like the is the root of all evil is something that I've definitely experienced with clients and myself a little bit. But there's also a few other beliefs that I feel like are dominant in specifically women Christians that hold them back from money. And I think another thing is that we're taught that like if we get something, it's at the expense of someone else. And that is rooted in scarcity. That's the belief that there's not enough to go around. And I'm not sure what the correlation is. I think that we're taught modesty as Christians. We're taught that it's bad to want more. And we believe it's like because we've our whole community, our parents, our family, whomever is around us, they all share these beliefs. It feels like fact when in all reality, it's not. You get to shape your own reality. You get to choose like what you want to co-create with God and your desires, the things that you want, they are divinely planted. And I believe that when we are called to do something and we don't know how we're going to get it done, but we have that deep like soul level calling, that is really put there because it is an opportunity for us to get closer to God, period. It is an opportunity for us to reconnect with love, remember that we are in an abundant universe. Like God wants us to thrive. And once again, I think it takes baby steps to start to correct some of these deep-seated beliefs. But another thing, another manifesting technique I mentioned earlier is the power of magnetic mirrors. If you find that you are one of those Christian women that has some of these beliefs and you know in your heart and in your soul that you deserve more, but you just can't bring yourself to ask for it, start to seek out magnetic mirrors, women who are Christian that were, limited by this, women who have achieved whatever goals that you hope to achieve. It may not even be monetary, but seek them out. And whether it's characters on a TV show or in a book or thought leaders or people you follow on social media, or if there's anyone in your community, seek out women who've had similar limitations and overcome them. And that's going to help accelerate your ability to see to believe it's possible for you and rewrite some of those subconscious narratives that it is evil to have money or success or be seen or whatever it is that's holding you back from collaborating with God to get what it is that you desire in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So tell us what most of your clients kind of look like. Like who comes to you for help?
So I have two different offerings, actually three. So I have this magnetism and money masterclass, and this is kind of the entry level thing. And it's a group program. We have lessons and group calls on a weekly basis. And this is kind of the dipping your toe in the water, getting through some of the money blocks, and also starting to feel safe in a community of women who get you and see you and are on a similar path. And then from there, I offer some manifesting mentoring services where it is a two-part method. First, we start with you and we really start to look under the hood and explore what is it that's really holding you back from thriving, especially if you're a beginning entrepreneur or if you have an established business, you're making, ends barely meet and you're starting to plateau and be stuck. So I offer manifesting mentoring for women in business, and it is part the manifesting stuff, the psychology and subconscious reprogramming and somatics and all of that. And then it's also, I give you real tangible strategies. I give you real tools, and I might even be the one to help you implement them so that we can help you have a more aligned business, meaning like what you're doing with your time lights you up, and the clients you're working with and the services you offer, they're all aligned with what you really want. That that is the ultimate goal of these containers. And then the third offering that I do is I like to host retreats. I like to bring women together and have an intention. Generally, it's something business or healing related, and we come together and we have some kind go to some destination and get to have a little bit of masterminding, a little bit of fun, but it's also a way to surround yourself in real time with magnetic mirrors as well. So yeah, you can learn more about these at morganmanifest.com. But thanks for asking, Erin.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you're doing. So if somebody's out there listening and they're starting to like resonate with some of these ideas, what do you feel like is the very first thing that they can just do on their own to support them in starting to be more intentional with what they're manifesting?
I would say start by getting clear on what it is that you want. And if you don't have that clarity, start to ask God. And then once you do have a vision, like really write it out in detail. Take the time to think like, what is my best life? Like what if nobody was looking, if money wasn't an object, like what do I really want? And it might be just more time with your family, or it might be a new car, or it might be a job, like whatever it is, but really start to get clear on that. And then once you get that clarity on a regular basis, at least once a day, if not multiple times a day, continue to surrender to God and ask, like, what's the next right thing to do? And when you start to have some fears well up or doubt or uncertainty, keep turning it over and surrendering. It is so powerful and it's so simple and it's free. But if any of this resonates with you, I'm happy to work through this with you as well. And you can go ahead and book a free strategy session with me. It is at morganmanifest.com/free. And I will be happy to give you some time to help you explore some of these things we've talked about today.
Oh, I love it. Well, we have definitely given everyone some things to chew on here, some things to think about. I appreciate you so much for just showing up in all of your beauty and sharing your knowledge and your experience and your story with us. I really like to close out each session here by praying for my guest. Would that be okay with you?
I love that.
All right, awesome. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this day. I thank you for this time with Morgan. I just ask that you would bless her, continue to bless her in a mighty way. We thank you for all the ways that you've already blessed her. We pray that you would just bless each listener today and bless all of the clients that Morgan is working with. And we just pray that you would continue to cultivate a deeper relationship with each person as they start on this journey, and that ultimately they would land in a place where they feel more loved and more connected by you. And we give you all of this that we've talked about and ask you to do what you will with it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're feeling blessed by the content here, the number one way you can show me is by leaving me a written review of the show. I'd be forever grateful. Knowing that you're out there listening helps me know that I'm truly living out God's purpose in my life. The other thing you can do is take a screenshot of this episode, share it with a friend, or better yet, tag me on your Instagram stories. Remember, you are seen, known, and loved. May God richly bless you today. All my love, Erin Jean.